Hello and welcome to the Cyber1 YouTube channel. My name is Ray, and in this video, the MicroSMT Pick and Place version 3 machine build, we're going to continue with the mechatronics, I suppose is the best way to describe it. This is the mechanical part of the build, or the motion control system, if there's another way of describing it. In the previous video, and I'll try and get a link to it in the description, we built the base frame and we also added the first of the stepper motors for the Y axis and the link across. In this one, we're going to put the linear rails on, or start with the linear rails, and then we'll assemble the X axis. So for this one, we're going to use M3 by 8mm screws. With this one, we come in a couple of holes, being very careful to make sure we don't drop this linear bearing off. And we're going to use these T-nuts. Now these are an M3 and they're designed to twist into the extruded profile. So we're going to put 4 of these on to start with. And I'm out of camera view. Now, like the last video, I'm going to try and add the part numbers as I use them. Now these pieces, oh, there's sharp bits on that one. There's a sharp metal piece sticking out on that one. So these pieces are supposed to help align the linear rails. And we put these on before we lock down the screws up here. That's our first one done. Okay, so that's my 2 rails installed. Let's move on to the next part. So what we've got are 2 of these pieces, and I will have to try and look up and find out what their part number is. Alright, so this is the B4 aluminium plate. Now there's 2 versions of this. One has got the extra keeper here compared to the one that doesn't. This is for the belt attachment and it goes to the bottom, so it will go on first. Again, we're using the M3 by 8 screws and we're using the inner holes here, and they go onto the linear bearing. Then we're going to have 4 screws, M3 by 8, going up from the bottom. I just want to double check one thing about these. Alright, so we're using these T-nuts. These are the ones that don't spin. And we're using the M3x10 screws for those. Alright, so that side's done. Next we've got this side. M3x8 to screw it down. Now I haven't tightened these down yet on the other side or this side. And that's because I have an alignment tool I need to use to make sure it's square. Now something else that I've done that I haven't shown on camera is just swing that out a little bit, on these pulleys here and over on the other side, I've installed these spacers. Now these are printed parts and they're a guide alignment. I'll put the name on the screen, which are used to keep these pulleys in the middle, or the idlers in the middle. In the construction diagrams and other videos that I've seen, they've only put a couple in on the top. I've actually done all of these. They spin freely enough, so I think that'll work. This is the alignment tool. I think it's done with the keepers off. It's an M3x10 screw holding that on. That's how it's done. Okay, the next part to go on is the cross beam. So this is a piece of 40-20 extrusion, and it's 530 something millimeters long. I think from memory there's one listed as 563 millimeters. Part number B007. So this slides on through our T-nuts. That feels better. This is not quite square. Okay, to get this square, to the frame, I've run it up to the ends with these T-nuts loose, and that's allowed these two to then twist and move in until these are both linear bearings are both touching the end. Then I've locked down my T-nuts, and that makes sure this is actually square to the rest of the frame. Because I don't want it to drift at all, I'm giving it a good tighten. Excellent. Alright, so we have some more spacers. These are 20mm brass M3, and again we'll be using 10mm screws for these. Okay, next step is the mounting up of the pick and place head. But before we mount the pick and place head up, putting it on the rail and mounting the rail on, we need to fit the camera. So the camera is mounted on the back side, and this is a camera I've already sliced the bag. There are two cameras. They do look a little bit different to each other. Just to show the second camera, so we have an up-facing camera and a down-facing camera. So the one I've got out here is the up-facing camera. It's got a lens cap on it, and this is the, sorry, that's the down-facing, this is the up-facing. So the idea of this one is it mounts in around here somewhere, and it can move the head while it's holding apart and have a look at the component and then orientate the component and confirm that it actually picked the component before placing it on the board. To make sure it can find the component and to make sure it's found where it is, it has this camera which faces down to look at the board and look at the components before picking. This piece, which I printed in white, mounts on the back here with the down-facing camera like so. So before we can mount that, we need to take these screws out. And I didn't need a Phillips anyway, I needed my little Allen keys. These are actually from the set they supplied. Note the orientation of where the connector is. Okay, so the manual is saying M2 by 8mm long screws, and I'm pretty sure the screws that I've got that I pulled out are nowhere near 8mm. So there is a bag of parts that include belts, tensioning springs, various screws that are threaded for plastic. So I wouldn't mind betting they're in there. Maybe not. There is, however, these. $8mm long, M2. That looks better. Now, the manual also tells us to pay particular attention to where this connector is, which will be important for the final assembly of the wiring later on. Right, so the screws that mount this on are the M3 by 8, which are these ones. Now we can do the rail. Okay, so the screws I used for mounting the rail was the I think it's the M10. No, M8. Sorry, M3 by 8mm long screws, and they've got these rotating T-nuts. So these T-nuts can rotate in, they'll get to across, so they can go in. I'm trying to find a good way of showing it. So they can go in like so, and then when you rotate them, they will turn sideways. Like that, and you can tighten them up and they'll lock in. And we do the same for these brackets. So I put 2 in from the bottom before I assemble the head, put the rail on, and 2 on the top, and lock that in. Once these keep it centered, and then we can tighten up the screws along here, make sure it doesn't move. Next, now in the manual, the next step is to mount this stepper motor, which I've already done. And now we've got to install the belt. So I haven't unwrapped the belt yet. It's one very long piece. So I'm going to start putting this in, and I will cut each piece as I go. So what we're doing, might rotate this a little bit to make it easier. Actually no, I'll just slide it over and rotate the camera. So it feeds in through the middle here. Need to make sure it goes below that pulley, above the standoffs, and on this Y bracket we have a clamp for holding the belt. So I'll pull out the first 10mm long M3 screw. So I'm going to have to pull them both back. Now, in the documentation and in a video that was produced, he showed doing this up with pliers to put tension on, and I'll probably have to do that with the last one, but while I haven't cut this belt to length yet, I can actually use the length of the belt to pull on and get a bit of torque on it as well. I'm actually quite happy with the tension on that belt now. Now I need to do the same for the other side. Now the two grub screws on the back shaft that link between the stepper motor and the other side, the cross shaft, I'm loosening off so that the shaft can spin in that coupling. And the reason I'm doing that is so that the two sides can turn independently of each other. And that way I can get the pulley alignments right. And in amongst this lot we have these springs. So these are used to help tension the belt. So we'll put those on next. And I think it's only one per. There's heaps of these. So I'm going to think he's got 2 per belt on this design. So the idea behind those springs is even if the belt starts to stretch or loosens off, this will maintain the tension on it. There's more than enough tensioners, spring tensioners on this to put 2 on each belt. And we put them as close to the fixing points as we can. So that we don't run into pulleys. Right, now that I've done that, I can tighten up to my 2 grub screws on the back for the drive system. And now we can do the X-axis belt. And there's leftover belt. About 1.2 meters worth of leftover belt, or 4 foot for those who work in those units. So we've got a spare linear bearing as well. I've actually got a collection of spare leftover parts. So one of each size of the big bolts, a couple of linear guide rail, or rail guides or mounts, and a pulley. And now some belts and a linear bearing. And I've still got to put the springs on. Alright, so that's the end of the frame construction, and it's got all the motion gear on it. So the next step will be wiring. So to see when that video comes out, don't forget to click on like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. It's a form of support that helps the channel a great deal and costs you absolutely nothing. If you'd like to support the channel further, I do have a Patreon account and YouTube membership, and you can join my VIP patrons GoLucky and Jeff Jerde, and my Builder patrons Al Morales45, Andrew Cardone, Airgar69 and James Kelly in helping to support the channel. All my Patreon and YouTube members get it a week before it's released on YouTube to the general public. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave a comment below or drop into the Discord and leave your question in there, and I'll try and get back to it. And we will see you in the next video.